Welcome back. I'm Eric. Going to do a movie review today. Going to be talking about Alien Nation, which was released in 1988. The tagline for this film was Los Angeles, 1991. They came to Earth to live among us. They've learned the language, taken jobs, and tried to fit in, but there's something about them we don't know. So Alien Nation would become a bit of a franchise. There would be a TV show that would expand upon the themes in the movie that aired in the 1990s, but also books and comic books as well. So, but the film, it was directed by Graham Baker, written by Rockne S. O'Bannon, who was became the showrunner on a lot of sci-fi TV shows. Produced by Gillian Hurd. She helped shepherd through a lot of sci-fi movies. The Terminator, most famously during the 1980s, but she also produced Alien Nation. So this film, it starred James Caan, Mandy Patinkin, and Terrence Stamp. It's an interesting hybrid of genres where it's a neo-noir, it's also a buddy cop movie with this sci-fi element brought into it. As we learned in the prologue of the film, that visitors from another planet have landed in California. They are refugees from a planet. We learn that these people were like an enslaved people, but they've been welcomed on Earth, and we're jumping ahead like 5 years into the future where they've integrated into human culture. Now, clearly the film is obviously a metaphor for immigration during the 1980s and people's attitudes about immigration, which I think makes this movie still relevant today on that level. But yeah, it has a lot of the tropes of 1980s cop movies. I mean, James Caan as the main character, he's in these films, the detectives, they're always divorced or about to be divorced, so their personal life is always in upheaval. They kind of live in a rundown house or apartment, and that's a total mess. So the refrigerator's always disgusting. So the film really follows those tropes. Also, we get a big shootout at the beginning of the film where James Caan and his partner get involved in a shootout, which kind of sets the plot in motion of the story, and he loses his partner, another common theme in 1980s. So James Caan, to investigate the death of his partner. He's assigned Mandy Patinkin, who is one of the visitors from newcomers, as they're called. The slang term is slags, okay, which is a derogatory term for the new arrivals. But he's partnered up with a newcomer, and they work together to solve the case. And I really think that's the best part of the movie, just the chemistry between James Caan and Mandy Patinkin, how they learn to get along with each other. With the newcomers, we see they have their own kind of underground society going, like many new groups that come into any country. They will form their own organizations, their own local economies. We see that, but also at the same time they are starting to integrate into the mainstream culture, and Patinkin does a good job of that. Like, he's kind of in the role of being like almost like an ambassador for his people, where like today, like he's there to make the majority group, basically to make white people feel safe around him. Okay, like, say, hey, look at me, we're not all that different. So he's really good at, I think, teaching others about his culture, but at the same time, like, knowingly being non-threatening, right? Even when he takes insults or things like that, he just kind of waves it off and keeps going. So the film does a good job of that. And then Terrence Stamp plays who is, when we first see him, he's kind of one of the community leaders of the newcomers, but he ends up becoming the villain of the movie. And of course the story leads to a drug trade plot, and which is once again very common of the time period. Yeah, but I think the film, it does explore the themes of racism and immigration in a way that a lot of science fiction has done. You hear characters say things like, I don't trust these people. Even James Caan himself at the beginning and through the movie kind of goes in his own journey where he doesn't really trust the newcomers. They have their own language. They have strange eating habits. Like one of the things in the story is like spoiled milk is like their alcohol, right? So that's one thing. So they eat different, they look different, they talk different. So he's already kind of has a prejudice as others do, but as happens. I mean, we see this in other films. Enemy Mine I talked about where of course they end up becoming good friends by the end of the story. So yeah, so those metaphors are in there well. I think the action scenes are fairly well done. I know someone criticized this movie for actually being too short. It's only 90 minutes long, and we don't learn a lot about the newcomers. I know one podcast review I was listening to wish the film had explored a little bit more so we can learn more about their culture. But of course, the books and comic books would do all that, and some said this film doesn't allow the story to breathe, but I think we learned just enough. It's not telegraphing everything to us. It worked fine for me. It's a 90-minute movie, introduces a lot of good ideas, good acting, good action scenes, good writing, very much of the 80s. I think Blade Runner, the look of Blade Runner is definitely an influence on this film. Like there's a scene where they go and interrogate kind of at this nightclub, and they interrogate one of the dancers. It reminded me when Deckard in Blade Runner goes to interrogate at kind of a nightclub type situation. So there's a lot of Blade Runner in Alien Nation as well, which is a clever title too for the film. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Alien Nation. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.